There is a lot of self-help online in books that often says you are not behind, you're comparing yourself, and often you're comparing yourself to the wrong person. I think it's all kind of BS. I think you are, in fact, behind. There are opportunities that are escaping you, and you are comparing yourself to other people for good reason. Now, it's not all doom and gloom. There is a silver lining, but let me just explain what I mean a little bit further through a small story. So, when I was about 16, I got a software called Fruity Loops, which allows people to make music or beats. And I was making beats and making beats. And from the age of about 16 to about 30, I was making beats on Fruity Loops and other softwares as I got older. But as the years ticked on, I started to realize that maybe my skill set is just not there. Now, I made a SoundCloud, I uploaded all my beats there, I tried to find people to collaborate with. When I went to graduate school, I even posted that I was looking for people to work with. I had a friend in New York I wanted to create an album with. That person ended up flaking. We never created the album. But 15 years of my life I spent kind of doing this thing, trying to get somewhere, daydreaming often about this amazing endpoint where I'd be DJing clubs and making music and producing, and maybe this could become an amazing career path for me. 15 years of doing it, mostly for the pleasure and enjoyment of doing it, not because I was really trying to get to that endpoint, but just still trying to get somewhere. By the time I hit the age of 30, I sort of started to read between the lines and understand that maybe this music thing is just not going to work out for me. Maybe I don't have the skill, I didn't put in the time, I don't have the connections, I'm not in the right city, and the reasons just go on and on and on. And you could make excuses and you can make real excuses. It just doesn't matter. At the end of the day, I was not becoming a musician. That branch of my tree or that possible road I could have taken in my life is pruned and gone. As you get older, opportunities and possible life trajectories will, in fact, get pruned or disappear. You will not be able to do all of the things that you would like to do in your life, and that is okay. And comparing yourself to other people, especially today, has become extremely easy given social media, LinkedIn, and all these other platforms that connect us to friends of friends, second, third, fourth degree separation, connections of people that we know. And it's just easy. And trying to escape comparison of your achievements with other people is like trying to escape a core part of human evolution, like trying to escape jealousy or anger. You just cannot. It's part of the human condition. We are born and raised to have a status in our group and compare our status with other people. There's a really good book about this called The Status Game by Will Storr that I highly recommend. And his point in the book is fundamentally what humans want more than money or power or anything else is status. That is the linchpin or the underlying thing that everybody's striving for. And you think you want money or you think you want power or you think you want this title or position, but really what you want is status. There's even been studies done where they've compared people or asked them, would you rather take a raise at your company, but everybody gets a raise? Or would you take a smaller raise, but nobody else gets a raise? And often people would take the latter, where they get a tiny bump of salary, but nobody else gets a raise versus everybody getting the same big bump of salary. It's just the human condition and it's weird and it's paradoxical. But here's a silver lining, and I'd like to share some ways that I cope with this. But the silver lining here is sometimes abandoning an identity or a possible trajectory of your life opens up space for you to build a new identity in your life. And I find whether you're in high school or you're in college or you're just working in your 20s or whatever, for every era or period of your life, often what you do need to do in an underappreciated skill is unlearning some of what you built as your identity and relearning a new identity so you can move forward in your life. I mean, in youth, there was just endless possibility. You could do anything. You could become a musician, you could become a plumber, you could become a researcher or a scientist, you could go into politics. The list just goes on and on and on and on. And for me, specifically, when I was in my undergrad program, I could not decide for the life of me what I should major in. There was just so many options. If I go to a restaurant and the menu is more than 1 page long, I will often compare and pick and worry and get my dish and then think about what if I got something else. It's just human nature to think about all the paths you could take and optimize your path, but then feel bad or feel a pang of guilt if what you got wasn't what you wanted. An artist needs a canvas to rein in their artwork. So a painter needs a canvas and an easel, and within those four boundaries is where they're going to do their painting. If you do graffiti, it's the walls that you're hit tagging as far as you can reach them. If you are a musician, you need some sort of beat to make your music on top of, or maybe you are the beat producer and you use some structure of music or some instruments to rein in what you can do with your music. Sometimes these limitations and restrictions and that canvas that you give yourself is just what you need, those boundaries on the bottom and the top and the left and the right, so you can, within those boundaries, operate and make your art. So I just want to walk you through four ways that I've coped with the loss of status or comparison with other people, which again, I don't think is escapable. Like you cannot not compare yourself to other people. And in today's day and age, it is just extremely easy to do this. But here are four ways that I recommend you cope with the status game. And number one is deleting all of your social media. Yes, that means TikTok. Yes, that means everything else. Just get rid of social media. Now, I understand the irony of me being on YouTube, which could be seen as social media, giving this message, but there are certain social media that are more problematic than others, and often what they do is not inform you of anything. In fact, what I hear from a lot of people is I've learned a lot from TikTok, and I'm sure you've gotten little tidbits here and there, but there's a really good book by Neil Postman called Amusing Ourselves to Death. And one of the central arguments of that book is when you fragment information into small pieces, it goes from information and learning into entertainment. And the book largely talked about news and how news has like intro and outro music and good looking people and all of these things that are meant to captivate you. But in that captivation, what you lose is context and depth and real information. So, though you might think you are learning from TikTok and you might pick up little tidbits here and there, I would argue that you are losing a lot more, whether that's focus, whether that's FOMO, whether that's jealousy, whether that's anything else. The argument that I'm making is you lose a lot more than you gain from social media. Number two is if you cannot get rid of LinkedIn because we live in the real world, and in the real world, LinkedIn has somehow become the de facto professional networking tool. What I would recommend you do, which is what I've done, is mute all of the people that you don't want to see in your news feed. There's nothing wrong with it. You don't have to block these people, but you can mute them. LinkedIn wasn't always just a ton of social media with a news feed and alerts that alert you for things that have nothing to do with you, but it sort of morphed into this because this is what drives engagement. Now, you can stay connected to as many people as you want, and that's fine. And if you need a new job, you can reach out to that network and you can nurture that network, but you don't have to be force fed in your news feed all of these updates about all of these people achieving all of these things. You can just mute it, which is what I've done, and it's helped me immensely. I don't want to see the news feed. In fact, if I could block the news feed, I would block the news feed. Recommendation number three is just sit and do nothing. It is surprising how easy it is to just forget that you can just sit and do nothing, even for 1 minute at a time, and how rare it is that people sit and do nothing. With a cell phone, with social media, with the constant distractions of modern life, it is so easy to spend an entire day where you are just going from stimulation to stimulation to stimulation and never actually stopping for a moment. There is a reason that people get their bright ideas in the shower or maybe in their commute or in other places where you don't have the attack or the barrage of advertisements and stimulation in social media. If you are by yourself just for a few moments, you will often find that there is a little bit of clarity that peeks through and cannot actually get through because you don't give it enough time to grow. I used to meditate. I still try to here and there. I'm not good at it. I don't, you could do what you want, meditate or don't meditate. But what I did find is in meditation, one of the things you realize is you are just a constant stream of thoughts. And these thoughts will grab your conscious and pull it in some direction. And if you can slowly start to become aware that, okay, your brain is just a machine of thoughts bubbling to the surface, and what you have to do is be aware of them, see them, and let them pass without letting them drag you emotionally or whatever with them. That is an important skill to just be aware of, I think. And just sitting still, even if you're not meditating and not being stimulated by anything, is super, super important for motivation, for clarity, for guidance, for a lot of things that you might need in your life. And number four, because we cannot escape comparing ourselves to people, I find comparison is a bit like riding a bicycle, where you don't want to fall to the right by being pulled too far by the jealousy and the emotional pangs of seeing your peers, classmates, colleagues succeed and go far beyond you. But you also want to be aware, because this is something that you cannot get rid of. You don't want to go the other way and completely try to disregard, ignore those emotions or those feelings. You should maybe, in some little part of your brain, be motivated that, you know what, I'm going to use this pang of jealousy or whatever it is to push myself maybe a little bit further, but don't let it go so far that you fall off the bike either way. It's a bit of a balancing game, fortunately or unfortunately. At the end of the day, emotions are seasons, right? They come and they go, and hopefully they don't last too long, especially the ones that really spike you in a negative way. And that could be a FOMO or a jealousy of someone or a comparison with someone. But what I found in my own life is I know the pattern and I benefit from the wisdom of age at this point, where I get some news and I feel really bad about it. And, the emotions spike, but over time it will dull. And more fundamentally, life is not a sprint, it really is a marathon. And if I think back to 10 years ago, there are people I was just so jealous of 10 years ago, and they don't even register anymore in my mind, because either we've drifted apart or their circumstances changed, or I just got older and better at balancing out my emotions. But the wins that you see today may not be the wins for whoever you're comparing yourself to tomorrow. So just be aware that these are seasons. If someone steps on your foot, you're going to feel that acute pain. And over time, the pain will dull. And maybe you'll change your behavior to say, you know what? I won't wear flip flops on the factory floor. Maybe I'll wear some boots. And that is the little nudge that you might need to just improve your life, even incrementally, given some of that pain that you might have experienced in the beginning. To end with a very quick story, I spent the last 3 years building a company that was venture capital backed, and we had a team and we were growing, and it was amazing. And I thought this was going to be the end point of my career. I thought me and my co founder were going to sell this company for a lot of money and I would be financially free for the rest of my life. And while I sacrificed those years, underpaid, overworked, working morning till night every single day, on vacation, on the weekends, just non-stop, I sacrificed that time that I could have been spending in other places, like climbing a corporate ladder or doing something good for the world. And at the end of the day, I was kicked out of the company and I have virtually nothing to show for it. In the same time, I saw peers of mine just completely crush it, rise the ranks, do amazing things, whether in entrepreneurship or outside of that, just do exceedingly well. And coping with that has been a challenge, but what I often remind myself is life is not a sprint, it's a marathon. And despite the little opportunities and things in your life that you may not be able to do now, whether that's pursue music or pursue a NBA dream, to play in a sports league, you lose those paths in your life and you gain new paths that you can go down as you get older. I can't become a musician. I'm not going to go to the Olympics. Those paths are gone for me. And maybe if you're my age, for you too. But the road that you're already down, you can enrich it and take new paths on that road. So understand that you will compare yourself to other people. That's okay. Just balance. And even though you're losing possible trajectories you could take in your life, putting that frame around your options and your ability to do your art, you might find other opportunities in the circumstance and in the constraints that you have today.